Oh, hi everyone. I'm just going through some model kits I recently acquired. Actually, they were given to me. Let me put these away, and I'm going to run the intro. I'll be back, and we'll get started. Hi everyone. Before we get started, I'm going to tell you about those kits I had out. They were given to me from a friend of my dad's from way back from the, oh goodness, early 70s. Anyways, he called me up and he said he had some kits that he wanted to get rid of, so I went over to his house and he said, here, you can have these. And you're probably wondering what they were if you couldn't see the labels or something, but over here I had a box sitting that was a, I can't remember the manufacturer, but it's called a honker bipe. That's from the 70s. The one I had cracked open was a Midwest Tri-Squire. That was a trainer from, I would say, the mid-60s, maybe earlier 60s. And the one in front of that was a Sterling Piper Tri-Pacer. They're all fairly small planes, 15, 20 size. There's another box that was sitting back here. It was an RCM trainer. That was from, I believe, the 70s, somewhere in there. I'm not really sure. But that's what that was, and I was just checking them out. It was kind of neat to see old kits like that fully intact. And the one in the very front was a Flying Fool control line. It was pre-built. It still needs to be finished. And they silk span the wings and stuff, and it's starting to tear from the age, so I'm going to strip that off, and maybe I'll do a video on silk span. Another thing is that one of my subscribers, his name is Chuck. He's from the US. He's been building a Cougar along with the videos, and he sent me a picture, and I'd like to show you that real quick. Chuck told me that he hasn't built in quite a while, and this is his first attempt in many years, and it appears to me he's doing a pretty good job. A lot of times I've noticed guys, they get off of the building for a long time, and it takes a little while to get used to stretching the monocoat and putting it on. But in Chuck's case, he did a pretty good job. I'm impressed. And he says, I'm looking at the picture in the monitor, so if you see me looking off to the side a little bit, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the picture myself. And the point that he's at right now is he needs to glue down the turtle deck to the top of the back of the fuselage and the canopy in the front. And he said he was going to wait for the video to come out on that part before he glues it on there. And I just want to show you that it's not that difficult to put one of these together, and by far you can build faster than I am on this video. I got so many irons in the fire, and it's taken me a lot longer to do this than I anticipated. Move on to the next subject here is that I do these videos for the newsletter in my club, the Gladwin Area RC Club, and I'm no longer going to be newsletter editor. I've resigned from that position because they decided to make me president. So now I'm president of the club, and someone else will be taking over the newsletter, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to continue the videos. I'm going to keep the videos going. Hopefully do some different things other than the Cougar kit. And one last thing is, you can probably hear that my furnace just kicked on. You're going to hear that blowing every now and then. I'm only, I don't know, 2 arm lengths away from it. It's kind of noisy, so let's get started on this. I want to show you first that I did already cut out. Let me find something to point with. Here we go, pencil. I already cut out the cavity. I already have the servo box I made installed. I have the wires for the retracts in there. Let's see if I can. And they're working. It's really just ready for the servo. I know I said I was going to show you all that, but cutting out the cavity is basically the same as doing the wheel well. So I didn't see much sense in doing that. The holes that the rods run in, I showed you that before, and it's just a matter of placement of the servo. I'll explain what I did. Is what I'd done is I laid a string, basically, because it's flexible and it goes around corners, from the center of the leading edge to dead center of where the holes were. And you can see I marked it on the top of the wing. And there we go. And I took the servo and I sat it about where I wanted it. And I decided, well, I'll just draw around it and that'll give me an idea where I want it. So that's what I did. Next thing I did was I built a box for the servo, for the mount, and that's glued in. And I figured I'd show you building the box because that's fairly simple, it'll go quick. Another thing is that the servo I had was a high-tech, and it was very, very old. And I installed it, had it all set. I was playing with it, making the retracts go up and down. All of a sudden, it quit. It was dead. I just thought it might be a wire, so I checked the wiring and stuff. That was all fine. And by the time I got to the motor, I tore it apart and got to the motor. The motor was fried. So I ended up tossing that out, and I just got in my order for a couple of new high-tech retract servos, because there's going to have to be another retract servo in the fuselage to operate the nose gear. So I bought 2 of them, and that's the point where we're at now. So I'm going to clear this off. I'm going to show you how I quickly made the box. It's really super simple, and we'll move on from there, and that'll be putting the servo in, and we'll kind of take it from there. I already had the parts cut out. I got the servo rails. These are 1/4 inch 5-ply simple rails. I'll drill them and then I'll tap them with the servo screws once we get to that point. I got 2 of the sides right there and 2 end pieces. And what I did, let me grab the servo, is I measured out the servo, sat it on a piece of light ply. This is used to be a great big piece, but now it's getting small. And I measured out the size of the servo, including the 2 rails, like that, and had it all measured out to where it will all fit. I cut off the end pieces so it's the correct width. And you see it comes right to the edge of the servo rail on this side, and 2 sides go on, and you know, pretty simple. But I'll put it together real fast and show you the steps, and I'll zoom in and you can check it out. I have my medium CA glue. I'm going to use that to put the sides on. So we'll start with the ends. I don't have a glue tip on here, but it doesn't matter. Put a little glue on there, square it up, use the square, get it where it's supposed to go. Other side. Well, they appear to be dry. So what I do is I'll take my servo and find out approximately where I want it to sit. And since this is a mock-up, I'm going to cheat a little bit here, kind of hide it from you. I'm just trying to get it level with the bottom because I got this new cord in the way. There we go. Level it up with the bottom and find out where I want it. Somewhere abouts in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these rails in there. I might have to go this way with them. And get them pretty close to where I want them. Might be a little too thick for what I'm doing. But that's okay, this is not the real deal, so it doesn't matter. Got it pretty close to where I want it. I'm going to mark them on here. I'm going to mark it on the plywood side where the bottom of it goes. Something like that. Take the servo out, try to. Now maybe I'll just tack them. You'll get the idea. Let's say that they're all squared up in there. I put a coating of glue on the whole thing on the side. And they're in there permanently. Just for the sake of saying it is. Hit it with a little quick set. And slide my servo out. Okay, we got to this point. I'm a little high right here with this one rail. It looks like it didn't go all the way down. And it's not coming out. It's all dry now. I took this edge down because I couldn't get it quite slid in. I don't know why. But like I said, this is a mock-up, no big deal. Just doing this to show you how I put mine together. It's a little CA on the side edges, or the end edges. I'll set this last side panel on here. Square it up best that I can. Something along those lines. Seems to dry really fast. Squeeze it together like that. There it is, it's the box. It's all dried. Like I said, it's just for the sake of showing you how to make the box. Drop the servo in. I don't know if I left enough room here. I think I did. Yeah. Just like that. And what I do next is you can see where the arm is going to be. The arm's going to be a little bigger than this, but what I do is I'll just mark a spot like this, and in the front where the arm will be when it's 90 degrees with the servo. And I'll draw a line down to the servo, approximately like that, and in the front. And I'll use a straight edge to make those lines. Let me square it up a little bit more for you. It's not the straightest. I don't draw straight lines without a ruler. But that'll be cut out. That way the rods, when they come in, will be sitting on the arm. They won't be hitting the box. And I'll bring the wing back and show you what we do from here. As you can see, I put a piece of paper over top of the hole so you can't see my hole, and I have my rod marks where I measured the distance from the front to where the rods are. And let's say if this was all balsa, you pop a little hole in there to find where your rods are exactly, like that. Well, let me find something else that I can pick that up with. And you can see down inside and see exactly where your rods are. X marks the spot. You take your servo and you have the regular straight servo horn on there, and you line it up, get it where you want it to go. You set it where you want it, hold it, take a pencil or felt pen or something, and draw out the square of your servo box. I had some technical difficulties, so if you're wondering why the camera angle might have changed a little bit, I had an audio dropout, and I filmed a whole little sequence here and the audio disappeared, so I have to do it again. So here we go. You're probably wondering why I even made a box in the first place. And of course, you could have taken your rod or your servo rails and installed them into the foam in the wing and glued them in real well with some epoxy or something and called it good. And that would work, but you've just cut out a section of your wing where it mates together and it keeps it from folding up. You basically took out the glue seam. So to replace that strength, I use a box, and it gives it a lot of area for the wing to glue back together. You got the both sides, and you got the front and the rear, and that helps with the strength of the center section of the wing. So if you're wondering why even make a box in the first place, that's why. Yeah, it adds weight, but it also adds strength, and the weight's worth the effort in the long run. But that's what you do. Then you take your knife, move your servo out of the way, take your knife, cut the hole just like you do the wheel well, and then clean it out to the depth of your servo box. You don't need to go any deeper. Slide it all in there. Once you find out that the arms are gonna match up where the rods are, you just kind of mock it up, put your whatever kind of connector you want on here first and get it all set, test it, glue in your box, and you'll get to the point where I'm at right now. Another thing is, I'm not endorsing the high-tech products at all. I'm just showing you what I use, because I do have other retract servos that are wore out too, and they're different brand names. You pick the brand name you like and go with that. And I've also have finished up my servo box for my ailerons, and that will sit in this direction with the wheel facing forward. It gives me a little bit more moment to the aileron horn, or the aileron, I guess you'd call it the horns. It'll give me a little bit more play on the angle. I'll be able to go further down to get more throw if I need to, and it will also add strength to the center section. So that's where we are right now. I'm not going to put in the aileron horns, because you just seen everything right here. I mean, the aileron servo, you already seen everything you need to know about making holes, installing boxes. And it brings us to this point where the servo needs to go in. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. In this box, when you make your box, okay, when you make your box, make sure you have a place for the wire to come out. And you can see there's a gap right here. I left past the servo rail where the wire can come up through and escape. Otherwise, you got a problem. you're gonna have to punch holes in the side or something to get your wires out. It's best to make your box so you can handle an exit for your wire. And let me show you again what I did. I always put a little hook in my wire. You go in the box, come up around the rail, kind of pull it all through at the same time. Gotta remember, this is going to be in the wing when I do this, so it has to be fairly easy to do. And your wire comes out the front. There's no stress right here where the wire comes up. It's nice and loose, so you're not gonna break your wires. And from there, since the retract servo is mounted is inset, you can put a plate on here if you want and mount your wires to it. And you can see the servo sits facing the other direction, and I have a slot here where it's going to come out, and it'll link up to this box. So there'll be another hole down here, so the wire can escape into this box and come out this hole. So they can basically be put together like that. I mean, a lot straighter, of course, but the wire, both wires will come out here. And then I'll mark the wires which is which, but in this case, it won't matter. This is a Futaba ball bearing. It's an S3152. I'm not really sure what the torque is on them. Back in the day, in the 70s, the main standard servo was only 16 ounce-inches of torque. We flew everything on that from 60 size on down. So don't be afraid that you're not going to be able to fly your plane if you have less torque coming out or less power coming out of your servo than whatever this 3152 is. So, but I wouldn't recommend going down to a 16 ounce inches. That is kind of weak. You can physically grab it while you're moving it and stop the servo from moving. So just a little tidbit to think about. Well, I got my servo in. You can barely see, but I have the connectors on, the rods are in, and everything is moving. And I'll flip the wing over so you can see that part. And oh, they're all locked in nice and straight. All I have to do is install my servo screws, lock this thing down tight, and the retracts are complete. That's pretty much it for retracts in the wings, installing the servo, all that good stuff. There's one more thing I'd like to talk to you about as far as the servos go, and that is the grommets, the rubber grommets and the brass inserts. Let me zoom in and kind of show you what I'm talking about. The reason I think this is kind of pertinent for this little section is every now and then I'll go out to the field and a guy will say, hey, come and check out my new plane. And I want you to take a look at the radio installation and see if it needs any adjustments. And on occasion, I'll notice that they'll have the grommets, the rubber grommets in, and let me find something to point with, but they'll have the brass inserts stuck in from the top. You don't want to do that because this piece of brass right here, the flange, is meant to ride against the plywood or the maple rail that you have in your plane, and it stops it from sinking in to the wood. If you flip it around the other way, it has a sharp edge, and if you tighten it down, it's just going to push that brass into the wood, and you're not going to get any shock absorption that you need. So when you put your servo grommets in and insert the brass into the grommets, make sure that you do it from the bottom, and it will tighten, your screw will tighten down against the brass, but it'll leave you the proper amount of shock absorption that it's supposed to have. Otherwise, you're just going to tighten. If you tighten down from this side, you're just going to squash it into the wood, and basically you're going to be pushing all the way down into the plastic. So that's really all I wanted to say about that. That's pretty much it for this video. The next time, I believe when we come back, we're going to be on like step 76 or something like that. And we're going to get into sheeting the top of the fuselage, getting into the tail section. I believe after that, I'm going to have to tackle the front retract. I'm kind of putting it off a little bit. But that's going to be cutting up the block, getting it so it comes in. For the retract to come in past this former, and I'm going to have to also take out a chunk of this front of the wing so the wheel will retract all the way. I'm not sure how far we're going to get, but we're going to start with the planking and go from there. So until next time, have a good one.